All right. So we have finally made it to Thursday, and for Friday, remember we have a homework quiz from now on every day. It'll be on Friday, so the end of the week. All right, so we have this circle, and we're trying to find the area and the circumference. Well, the area of a circle is equal to pi r squared, while the circumference is equal to pi times our diameter. Or it's also equal to 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times the radius. All right, so our radius is actually exactly half of our diameter. And the diameter is this long line that goes through the center of the circle from one point to the other. Okay, or from one side of the circle to the other. So that's our diameter. 6 is our diameter. Well, we want our radius, and our radius is our diameter divided by 2. So obviously our radius is going to be equal to our diameter, which is 6 divided by 2. So our radius is 3. So all you do is just plug them into your equations. So you have your area is pi r squared. So our radius will be pi times our radius squared. And you plug that straight into your calculator. You have pi, so 3.14 times your radius squared. And you're just going to, end up rounding to the nearest hundredths. So leave that as 28.27. And let me write that a little bit better. 28.27. So that's your answer for your area. And then same type of thing for your circumference. So since we already used your radius, you can just use it here as well. So you can do 2 times pi times your radius, which was 3 times pi, is going to give you your answer. All right, so we have that times there, and we've got 18.85. And those are your solutions here. All right, and the second one tells us to reduce the fraction. So all you're doing is you're finding the greatest common factor for the numerator and the denominator. Well, our greatest common factor for 68 and 32 are actually going to be 4. So I can divide both of those by 4, and I'll get 8 over 17 is my solution there. 22 and 28, all they have in common is a 2. So I can divide those two by 2, and I'll get 11 over 14. Next, I have 21 and 49. Obviously, their greatest common factors is 7. We'll divide both by 7. So we have 21 divided by 7 is 3, while 49 divided by 7 is 7. So we have our solutions. Super easy. All right. If point A is located at negative 12, 6 on a coordinate plane, and point B is located there, what's the difference between the 2 points? All right, so what you need to know here is the distance formula. The distance formula, the distance is equal to the square root of the distance, or the difference between the x values squared plus the difference between the y values squared. Okay? And you just plug them in. So this can be x1 and y1, x2 and y2. All right, so plug it, and you'll plug it exactly into your calculator just like this. So our x2 was 4, our x1 was negative 12, and so I have my negative 12, and I'll have that squared, plus my y2 is 6, minus my y1 is also 6 squared. And you just plug it into your calculator. I would personally simplify first so I don't get confused in my calculator, because you can easily see that 6 minus 6 is just 0. If this is 0, then I've only got this part remaining. Okay, so you can just plug that into your calculator and you should be good. So you'll have the square root of, of, and you'll say 4 minus a negative 12, and you're going to square that. And I got 16 as the distance between those two. Another way that you could have solved this problem is you could have just said, well, they have the same y value, so you could have just found the distance between negative 12 and 4, which was also 16. Okay, so again, if they have the same x or y, just ignore those, and then you just find the distance or the difference between the other two numbers. All right, moving on. How much is half of 3.25? Literally just divide 3.25 by 2. And you get 1.625. And you're done with that. Moving on, circle the more precise measurement. You're going to get a measurement more precise the more if you keep adding on the numbers behind that decimal, it's going to make your measurement more precise. So the most precise one would have been D, because it has more numbers behind your decimal. Okay, so D is our answer here. Okay, the next one, write an inequality for x that would give the rectangle an area of at least 300 feet squared. So if we say at least 300, we'd be happy if it was exactly 300, and we'd be happy if it was greater than 300. Well, the area of a rectangle is just length times width. If your length is 3 and your width is x plus 5, you just multiply those. So you're literally doing 3x plus 5. You could simplify that if you want and just distribute, and you'd have this. So you have two possible options. You could do 3x plus 15 is greater than or equal to 300, or you could keep it with the distributive property not done yet and have it as 3 times x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 300. Either of those is correct. All right. And we're going to move on to our last two, which should be super easy at this point. So we're justifying each step with an algebraic property. Well, we have negative 10 is equal to 4x. Well, you want x by itself. Right now, x is attached to 4. When it's attached to something, that's multiplication, like we talked about yesterday. All right, since that's multiplication, to get rid of it, all we're going to do is divide both sides by 4, which means we're using the division property of equality. All right, those 4's will cancel each other out, and I have negative 10 divided by 4, which is actually just negative 2.5. And we are done for this. And finally, for Monday through Thursday's homework, all you have to do after this is just your quiz for this week. Solve the equation and justify each step with an algebraic property. So the first thing that you could do, well, the first thing I would do here is get rid of that. I would get rid of my 1/2 by distributing. So we're going to distribute that 1/2 to all the terms inside our parentheses. So we're going to use the distributive property. And you can clearly see it's going to be several steps. So half of 8 is 4. Half of negative 6x is negative 3x, and it's going to equal 10. My next step is I would get rid of that 4. I would move it to the right side. So I'd have to subtract both sides by 4. So I'm also going to use subtraction property of equality. And then I'd have negative 3x is equal to 6. And finally, I would divide both sides by negative 3. So we're going to do division as well. Okay, and then of course, x is going to be equal to 6 divided by negative 3. X is equal to negative 2. All right. And that is it. If you need to review any of the concepts that were introduced or even just reviewed this week, just go back and rewatch these videos, try them again, all that good stuff. And if you are an at-home learner right now because you're quarantined, then what you will need to do is just click on the link for your Friday quiz and just turn it in by Friday at 11:59. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.